So the 2026 Formula One season is still a ways off, but believe it or not, a massive controversy is already heating up and threatening to divide the entire grid. It is a classic F1 saga. You know the drill. It's all about the rules, how you read them, and which teams are willing to make a high-stakes bet that could totally define the next era of the sport. Let's dive in. Okay, so take a look at this quote. Kind of weird, right? This is from Graham Loden, the chief over at Cadillac, a brand new team getting into F1. Why on earth would the boss of a new team have to come out and publicly declare that his engine is fully legal? It's one of those comments that just screams there's a much, much bigger fight going on behind closed doors. So where's all this tension coming from? Well, it all goes back to the absolute monster of a rule change coming to Formula One in 2026. And we're not talking about a few small tweaks to the wings. No, the sport is getting brand new power units, new chassis. A lot of people are saying these are the most radical changes the sport has ever seen. And you know what happens whenever F1 hits the reset button this hard? It creates a massive opportunity. The teams and their engineers, they absolutely live for this stuff. They get their magnifying glasses out to hunt for those little gray areas in the rulebook, a clever loophole that could give them that winning edge on the track. But that's also exactly where the arguments always start. All right, so what's the specific thing they're fighting about? You might be surprised. This entire debate, this massive split that's forming between the engine makers, it actually all boils down to one very specific, very technical little rule. And here it is. This is the single sentence causing all the drama. Combustion is not allowed to take place at a compression ratio above 16:1. So what does that actually mean in plain English? Well, it's basically a limit on how much you can squeeze the mixture of fuel and air inside the engine before it goes bang. Squeeze it more and you can get more power. And that, of course, is why F1 controls it so tightly. And this is where it gets really juicy. There are two completely different ways the teams are reading that one little sentence. On one side, you've got the by-the-book camp. They're saying, look, it's simple. The engine can never go over that 16:1 limit, period. But then you have the clever engineering camp. They're thinking, the official tests are done when the car is standing still. What if we could design an engine that passes the test just fine, but then when it's actually racing on track, it achieves a higher, more powerful compression ratio? See the difference? It's a huge one. So with these two totally opposite philosophies, it is no surprise at all that the grid has basically fractured. We've got two distinct factions forming, and each one is absolutely convinced that they're the ones who've read the rules correctly. And just look who's on each side. In the by-the-book corner, you have some absolute heavyweights. Ferrari, along with their customers Cadillac and Haas, plus Audi and Honda. But in the clever engineering corner, well, you've got the teams that have dominated the sport for years, Mercedes, and of course, the Red Bull teams. So yeah, this isn't some minor squabble. We're talking about the biggest names in the sport going head-to-head. So let's start with the by-the-book camp. The group led by Ferrari, which as we know includes Cadillac, is just adamant that there is no gray area here. They believe the rule is simple, it's straightforward, and it is definitely not open to any kind of creative interpretation. And this quote from Cadillac's Graham Loden really just says it all. You can't get much more direct than that. To me, it's extremely clear it's there in black and white. For him and the teams in his camp, the regulation is written down, and they've followed it to the absolute letter. Okay, so what about the other side? How is the Red Bull camp looking at this whole storm brewing? Well, let's just say they see it very, very differently. They're basically dismissing the entire controversy as just complaints from rival teams, or as they put it, just noise. And here's the Red Bull engine chief, Ben Hodgkinson. His take is that this is just a classic case of preseason jitters and mind games. He's suggesting that other teams are just getting nervous about some clever engineering and are kicking up a fuss over something that's perfectly within the rules. But then he says this, and this is the really critical part. He openly admits, of course, we've taken it right to the very limit of what the regulations allow. So while he's confident they're legal, he's also making it crystal clear that they have exploited every single millimeter of the rulebook. It's a bold admission and a classic F1 strategy, an aggressive interpretation. So who's right? Ultimately, all the talk, all the quotes, all the speculation, it doesn't really matter. There is only one way to settle a dispute like this in Formula One, and that's on the tarmac. And these are the dates that really matter. Preseason testing in Barcelona and Bahrain will give us our first clues. We'll finally see the cars on track, we'll hear the engines, and the stopwatches, well, they will start to tell the real story. But the final, undeniable truth, that will be revealed at the season opener in Australia. So that leaves us with the ultimate question for the 2026 season, doesn't it? Did one side find a genius, race-winning loophole that the others missed? Or did they push things just a little too far and break a fundamental rule? The track will be the judge, the jury, and the executioner on this one. And honestly, we won't have to wait long to see that verdict.